Hey everyone! Mardi Gras was earlier this week, and like many other people here in New Orleans, on Monday night I was frantically trying to throw together a costume and basically make a bunch of like last minute additions. I originally wasn't planning on like doing anything for Mardi Gras except for like sleeping in and hanging out at home. But at the last minute, I decided to join my friends and go downtown to go see the St. Anne parade and to maybe catch Zulu. So yeah, I needed a costume. So I dug through our costume stash and I pulled out this jacket that I made for my husband a couple years back for Halloween. It's like a circus ringleader. It's kind of oversized on me, but I kind of wanted to wear it because it was going to be cold. So yeah, along with that costume, I made this hat. It's like a top hat. It looks kind of rough in here because you don't need to see it when you're wearing it. It's kind of big. I guess I could have worn it, but I didn't feel like wearing something so big. So I decided to make a tiny little like Fascinator type hat, I guess is what you could say. Just one that would just sit like crooked on my head. So I thought that I would walk you guys through how I made it. Now I'm using a tutorial that I used to make this guy. It's like an old school threadbanger video. You guys probably already know Robin Corinne threadbanger. This was like a video from back in the day, and Corinne made a cute little top hat. For Halloween a couple years ago, like I mentioned, I made this hat. Obviously, it's not tiny, it's big, and it has like a hole in it. I'll link to hers down below. You'll see that she doesn't like make a hole in it because you don't need one if it's a tiny little hat. But I needed one for a big hat, so I modified that tutorial a little bit to make this big one. Anyway, I'm going to be following her tutorial more closely with how it's going to be a tiny hat, and I'm not going to cut a hole. But I am going to, kind of stray from her tutorial a little bit, and I will walk you guys through what I did. But before I get into that, you might have seen I have merch now. You can see them down below underneath the video. There's a bunch of like Cheslin stuff, and I'm planning on within the next few weeks putting more stuff up there now that Mardi Gras is over and I'm not like stressing out trying to get stuff done for that. So keep your eyes peeled for new merch. I also opened up my membership thing. So if you are a member on here, then there's a coupon link for you guys to use in that merch store. Alternatively, if you want to support me and you either don't want merch or you don't want to join the YouTube membership, you can always join my Patreon. Same thing with that. I have a coupon code for my patrons so that you guys can use it for my merch. So if you're interested in joining that, then there'll be a link down below or up in the corner. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys how I made my little top hat. So let's get started. I used some thin cardboard. I'm using a LaCroix box, fabric, thick wire, tape, hot glue, feathers and fake flowers and other decorative things, hair clips, and a needle and thread. For the top of the hat, I traced a circle that was the size that I wanted onto the cardboard. This cardboard is a bit thin, so I decided to double it up. I glued two pieces together and then cut the circle out. Then I cut a strip of cardboard that was as tall as I wanted the hat to be and long enough to form a cylinder that would be a little bit smaller than the circle for the top. I glued the edges together to form a cylinder, and then I positioned that cylinder onto the circle and glued it in place. I laid out my fabric wrong side up and glued the edge of the circle to the fabric, rolling the circle and cylinder around as I glued. I cut off a majority of the extra fabric, and then I folded the edge in and then glued it down. I snipped the fabric on the bottom up to the bottom edge, and then I glued those tabs up into the inside of the hat, pulling it taut. This gives the hat a nice kind of curved look. You can make this look a lot more exaggerated if you make the cylinder a lot smaller than the top circle. Then I further trimmed the top fabric to be about ½ inch, and then I snipped around the fabric again and glued the tabs down. I applied hot glue to the top of the circle and then glued fabric on top. I wish I had used a different type of glue, or maybe just glued around the edge instead of zigzagging on the top, because the hot glue made the top look lumpy. If I had time, I would have redone this, but I needed to hurry up and finish this thing. Then I trimmed the fabric. I cut some wire so that when it was formed into a circle, it would be about an inch or so bigger than the hat. This is going to be the brim of the hat. I taped the wire, making sure to tape the edges too so that it wouldn't snag the fabric. Then I started gluing the wire to the fabric. I worked around, gluing in small sections, and then gluing the fabric, pulling it taut. Basically, I would do one section, and then do the section immediately across from that, then move on to another section, and then do the section immediately across from that, and so on and so on. I trimmed that down and applied the glue right around the inside edge, and then glued another piece of fabric. And then I cut that excess. Here in the Threadbanger video, Corinne uses some bias tape around the top edge of the hat and the edge of the brim, which makes it look nice and neat, but I didn't have any bias tape in my craft room. Surprisingly, I have like everything else that I need, but I didn't have that. But thankfully, my fabric that I was using was synthetic, so I ended up just running a lighter around the exposed cut edges, and that melted the frayed thread, sealing the edge, and then making it look a tad neater. If I had more time and materials, I'd totally do the bias tape thing, but again, no time. So this worked in a pinch, thankfully. So now I glued some feathers onto the body of the hat, concealing the seam where the fabric edges are, bending the wire around to the inside, and then gluing that down. Then I glued a couple flowers as well. Again, I strayed from the Threadbanger tutorial here. At this point, Corinne cuts 2 slits into the brim in the middle to thread lace that she uses to tie the hat to her head. I wanted to do hair clips instead because I didn't want to fuss with having to tie the hat on, so I used 2 hair clips and I sewed them in place. Also, I didn't do this on purpose, it just ended up that way, but I would suggest positioning the hair clips to be right where the body meets the brim, or just barely on the outside where the body will meet the brim. This makes it way easier to clip in place. With the way mine ended up being positioned, I could just push the body down and the clips would clip. I applied hot glue to the inside of the body and placed that down onto the brim fabric. My glue didn't really seep down as much as it did for Corinne's hat, so I just glued around the outer edge. I planned on covering this up anyway, so I wasn't too concerned about having hot glue exposed right here. Then I took a strip of this burgundy velvet and I glued it around, hiding the hot glue. I glued another flower to conceal the edge of the velvet. Then I bent the wire of the brim to shape it a bit. I just tried to get the sides to flare up a tad to complete the top hat look. And then it was done. For a quick little thing, I think it turned out pretty good, and made a nice addition to my last minute pulled together costume. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you guys don't mind that it was more of just like a walking through. I hope you guys don't mind that it was more of like me following somebody else's tutorial and walking you through how I did it and how I altered it to suit my own needs. If you did like it, then please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all of that good stuff. Don't forget to check out Threadbanger and Rob. Don't forget to check out Threadbanger. I'll leave a link to them down below. If you are interested in following me on any of my social media, there will be links to all of those down below. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much to my patrons for helping me produce this video. If you like my videos and have learned something from them, please consider supporting me on Patreon to help me continue to make them. It's totally optional, I'll still be making videos either way, it just helps me be able to put out better stuff. A link will be down below, or you can just click up here in the corner.